Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mr. Beard. In this video, I want to talk about the mechanics of dinosaurs in the Isle. I posted two videos on my channel which talk about the next secret dinosaur and the next secret apex that's going to come in the game. And in this video, I want to take a more detailed view at every mechanic, or approximately every mechanic dinosaurs in the game have brought to the table for the game. At the end of the video, we're trying to figure out if these mechanics will play a role in when a dinosaur will come to the game. And I say let's get right into the video, and we will start with something Dondi said in his last stream, which was approximately 3 weeks ago.
I think like two other things that are major for the animals, and then like every dinosaur you see after that, in some way, shape, or form, will have shades of another type of dinosaur's playstyle and functionality.
Okay, now we'll take a closer look at the first dinosaurs that came into this game, from Omniraptor all the way up to the last update, which I think included Sarah, Gali, and those guys. In total, we have 13 dinosaurs that are originally in Oviraptor right now. We'll take them one by one and see each of their mechanics that came with them in the game. First, we have the Omniraptor, originally known as Utahraptor. This dinosaur came in Oviraptor with the pounce mechanic. It's a mechanic that helps them jump on other dinosaurs and take them down either alone or in a group. Next up, we have Tenontosaurus. Now, this dinosaur has a lot of attacks, but I don't think it came with a specific mechanic for this dinosaur, so I didn't write any one of them down. Up next, we have the Dryosaurus, which came with a dodge mechanic and also is going to have burrowing very soon. Burrowing will allow it to go underground and be away from all the carnivores that are trying to come at it. The dodge mechanic also allows it to, as is self-explanatory, dodge out of an incoming attack. Next, we have the Carnotaurus, which came with a charge mechanic, which helps it pick up speed and put its head down, making its horns visible, and anything that is in the specific weight class is going to get staggered by the Carnotaurus if it charges into them. If the creature is too big, the Carnotaurus gets stunned itself. Next is the Hypsilophodon, which came with a spit mechanic. It allows it to spit from its stomach into the eyes of enemies and blind them until it gets away. Next up is the Stegosaurus, which came with impaling dinosaurs with its tail when it kills them if they're small enough, and it also has tail directional attacks which make it easier to attack in any direction it wants. Up next we have the Pteranodon, which came with flying mechanics. Skimming the water for fish. When it flies, it can pick up fish while it's flying from the rivers and lakes. And grabbing the trees mechanic, which when flying, it can actually go up on a tree and climb itself onto it. Up next is the Deinosuchus, which came with the swimming mechanics, and the lunge mechanic, which allows it to lunge out of the water at unexpected prey and drag it down, drowning it. Next is the Pachycephalosaurus, which came with bone break mechanics, ramming trees for food, and charged attacks. You know, when you hold the right click, it actually charges the attack, and I'm guessing you deal more damage. Next, we have the Beipiaosaurus, which has its own dolphin mechanic. Well, I kind of put this one in. I know it's not really a mechanic, more of an animation, but you know, it's kind of its own mechanic. Chilling on top of the water, you know, when the Beipiaosaurus stops in the water, it kind of goes up on top of the water, which can help in the future dinosaurs that could act the same way, being very buoyant, staying on top of water rather than sinking. And it also came with its own mechanic to scavenge underwater for crabs and also grapple itself to the ground underwater. Next, we have the Ceratosaurus, which came with eating rotten corpses, allowing it to have a more diverse diet. It gets a buff near corpses, which I'm guessing a circle was implemented in programming, and if the Ceratosaurus is within that circle, it gets a buff. It has extra smell range and another one of its mechanics, giving sickness to their victim, which, if it has bacteria in its stomach while eating rotten corpses, when biting other dinosaurs, it will give them sickness, and if enough sickness accumulates, they will vomit. Up next is the Troodon, which came with amazing night vision and its own venom mechanic. We'll call this one number 1. Next is the Gallimimus, which came with a run buff when in groups mechanic. When 2 or more Gallimimuses run together, if one of them broadcasts, they all get the speed buff. And also, like the Beipiaosaurus, Gallimimus can scavenge on top of the ground outside of the water for crabs. Okay, now let's take a look at all the mechanics we've learned so far. Let's keep them in mind and move on to the next dinosaurs that are upcoming into the game very soon, which are from the roadmap the developers put on YouTube. Here's an image of it. And there they are on the left side of the screen. We'll take them each again and speak about them and what they're gonna bring to the game. First, we have the Dilophosaurus, which is going to bring to the table the second venom mechanic, which Troodon had number 1, now Dilo has number 2. Next, we have the Herrerasaurus, which is going to bring climbing mechanics on trees and other objects, jumping on prey and from trees to trees, and possibly the lighting neck to same species mechanic, which, if you didn't know, Herrera's little neck lights up to other Herrerasauruses in the area. Next is the Diabloceratops, which brings a sparring mechanics for probably all ceratopsians that are in the game and are going to come in the game. And also they bring a locked combat form when they stand their ground and fight other dinosaurs. Basically they enter this combat form that doesn't allow them to turn left and right, and the camera just focuses forwards and the dinosaur just kind of turns where your camera's pointing. Up next is the famous Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is going to bring a lot of mechanics to the game, for one of them being breaking walls and probably even trees. Another is stomping on small dinosaurs, which is probably trample damage, which Puertasaurus had in Legacy, I think. A crush mechanic, which we've seen the animation for it in one of Dondi's stream. And the pin down mechanic, where the T-Rex is going to pin other dinosaurs to the ground and other dinosaurs is going to pin the T-Rex on the ground. Next is the Triceratops, which is going to bring a shake trees with its horns mechanic, which is new. As we know, the Pachy can ram trees for fruits. I think Trike is going to have an animation that's going to just shake the tree rather than hit it for fruits. It also going to have a mechanic which I suspect, this is from me, maintaining sharpness of horns, from something that we saw Tapwing say in the concept art for the Triceratops, and I quote from the devlog where the Triceratops appeared. Yes, those horns have many uses, and like any frequently used tool, will need to be well maintained if you're to hold onto those formidable weapons. This is what Tapwing said when he released this concept art to us. Now that's why I think maintaining sharpness of horns is going to be very useful when looking at future dinosaurs, so bear with me until then. Trike also came with impale capabilities, which we've seen before at the Stegosaurus. Up next is the Oviraptor, which is going to come with a stealing eggs mechanic. It's probably going to have, scenting for nests and stuff like that, but this is all going to be within the stealing the eggs mechanic. Next is the Maiasaura, which is going to build on the Hadrosaurus's animations, considering all of them are probably going to trot on 2 legs and walk on 4 legs. It's also, from the concept art, we can see is going to be strong as a rock and probably won't be able to be charged, and will be able to use its very strong body to fight back against predators. And the last one on the list is the Kentrosaurus, which will introduce a layer of protection over all its body, as it has spikes all around it. It's probably going to have the same impale capabilities of the Stegosaurus and the Triceratops, which we already know they are in the game. This is also from me, but I think it's going to have a shoulder attack, considering its shoulders have spikes. And this again will be useful in the future when we look at another dinosaur, which is going to be the Maiasaurus. I also want you guys to remember that the developers introduced a secret dinosaur between the Oviraptor and the Maiasaura, and I think they also switched them around in the roadmap. So we'll keep that in mind and we'll talk about that dinosaur in a little bit in this video. Okay, now let's add these mechanics that we just learned to the other mechanics and see all of them on one screen. As you can see, there's a lot of mechanics we have here. Now what I want to do is go through each dinosaur that's on the list of coming into the game and attribute these mechanics we see here on them. We will also see what each dinosaur that's upcoming is going to also bring to the table once they are released. And after all of this, we're gonna try to put them all in order in our own upcoming DNA roadmap and see if that makes sense to us. Well, I'll try to do that anyways, but it's all my theory, so it might absolutely be incorrect, but who knows, maybe it's correct. We will see. The format we will use for each dinosaur, from smallest to the biggest, is we're gonna put the dinosaur's picture in the middle of the screen, and on the left side we're gonna have the possible upcoming mechanics the dinosaur will have, and on the right we'll have the requirements the dinosaur will have. Don't worry, it will make sense in a bit. Okay, starting off with the first dinosaur, which is the Orodromeus. At the requirements we have swimming as the only mechanic this guy will have because it will be able to swim, and at the possible upcoming mechanics we will have the dodge mechanic and the burrowing. These mechanics that are at possible is basically me giving them the possibility of having them to make them more interesting. Next up is the Homalocephale, which the requirements are going to be burrowing, bone break and swimming. I'm saying bone break because if we look at its concept art, we see it headbutting a Tenonto and actually standing up, and the Tenonto is actually on the ground, probably dead. So this guy is probably going to have a very thick head. On the concept art, we also see it enter a burrow, so that's why I also add burrowing and swimming, because it will be able to swim. At the possible upcoming mechanics, which I gave it to him, are the ramming the trees mechanic, which Pachy also has to get fruits from the trees, and also charging your attacks. Pachy can hold and charge its attacks. Next up, we have the Psittacosaurus. At the requirements of it, we have burrowing and swimming, being small enough to burrow and also being able to swim. At the possible upcoming mechanics for it, we have steal and eat eggs. I gave it this ability to make it more interesting to play to players. Next up, we have the Velociraptor, which will have the requirements of the pounce mechanic because it's a raptor and it's probably going to be able to pounce. It will also have burrowing because it's small enough to get in burrows, and also swimming because it will be able to swim, and this dinosaur has no possible upcoming mechanics that I thought of. Next up, we have the Protoceratops, which will have its unique mechanic that is going to be a snapping bite, as we see from the concept art, and also something the developers said. Burrowing because it's small enough to burrow, and also we can see it in the concept art. Swimming because it will be able to swim. Sparring mechanics because it's a Ceratopsian, and Diablo also introduces that to the game. And the locked combat form that Diablo also introduces to the game. At the possible upcoming mechanics, we have bone break because it will probably be able to break bones with that skull, and also ramming trees to get fruits. Now, possible again, they might not come. Next up, we have the Minmi, which has two unique mechanics it will bring to the game that are requirements for it. Walking underwater, as we can see in its concept art, and also is going to have very thick armor. I'm calling it armor because also Anki, I think, is going to utilize the same mechanic this guy will use. That's why I'm not calling it thick skin. And also it's going to have hide underground mechanic, as we also can see in its concept art. And also burrowing, because the developer said Minmi will come with burrowing. And this dinosaur has no possible upcoming mechanics that I could think of. Next up, we have Rugops, which is basically, as the devs described it, a small Carnotaurus without the charge ability. This guy will have the requirements of swimming, basically. I don't know a lot about this dinosaur, it wasn't talked much about. And at the possible upcoming mechanics, I gave him burrowing and the dodge mechanic as the carnivore to make it more interesting. Because it doesn't have the charge ability, let it dodge out of a Carno's way at least. Next up, we have the Austroraptor, which we see from its concept art that it will have 3 new mechanics that it will come in the game with. First one being jumping on fish. Second one being seeing fish from the shore, basically detecting them in the water so he can jump on them. And also carrying babies on its back, as we can see in its concept art. I also gave him swimming, of course, and buoyancy in the water, because the developer said they want to make him something like Beipi. And I thought with all the feathers on it and being very aquatic, it's probably going to, if it stops in water, just go on top of the water and sit like a duck, just like the Beipi. Now, at the possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it the pounce mechanic because it's a raptor, but again, it's probably going not to have it because, again, it's a fisher now, not really a raptor that hunts. It's going to have burrowing, probably, because it's small enough to get in a burrow. Scavenging to probably search for crabs on the shores. And jumping while climbing, same prompt. Basically, when it jumps, we see the jumping on fish mechanic on the right at the requirements. What I meant by same prompt is that it will utilize the Herrera's prompt when they hold right click to jump, that they will be able to specifically see where they will jump exactly on top of a fish in water. That's why I possibly put it at possible upcoming mechanics that maybe is not going to be like that. Next up we have the Monolophosaurus. At the requirements we have the spit mechanic the Hypsi uses, and as we can see in its concept art, it will use some kind of spit from its nose probably to track prey. We also have, I gave him swimming because it will probably be able to swim. Eating rotten corpses because we can see in the concept art it will attack something that's next to a rotten corpse. And also giving sickness to others. What I meant by this is not in the sense of Ceratosaurus giving sickness to somebody that it vomits. It's basically spitting on them and giving them sickness to track them, right? It will basically utilize eating rotten corpses to form its saliva that will be ejected through the nose on a person or a dinosaur, and it will track them basically with that. And at possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it burrowing because it's probably small enough to burrow. Next we have the Utahraptor, the newer version of it, and as we know there's not a lot of information on it. That's why at the requirements I gave it a pounce mechanic, that because it's a raptor, it's big enough to pounce. Swimming, because it's probably going to be able to swim. And pin down other dinosaurs, because it's a raptor, and just like Omniraptor can pin other Omniraptors down, or groups of them bigger dinosaurs, Utahraptor, I'm sure it will be able to do the same. At possible upcoming mechanics, we have nothing basically, because I don't really know a lot about this dinosaur and I couldn't think of something to give it. It's too big to borrow and basically yeah. And not in the sense of being too heavy to borrow. I'm saying too tall to borrow, because its body shape won't really help it borrow. Next we have the Quets, and at the requirements we can see it's going to come with two new mechanics of its own. Picking things from the underground, as we can see in the concept art, it will be able to sense things under the ground and pick them. Now this will probably have good hearing, or a way of the Austroraptor's vision that it sees fish. The Quets will basically use it to see fish and things underground, or maybe both, good hearing and the Austrovision for fish. And also the spear mechanic, I gave it this name because as we can see in the concept art, it's going to fly down, grab something and instantly fly away. I named it a spear mechanic because it makes sense. It comes down like a spear and instantly flies away. I also gave it flying because it's going to fly. Skimming as a juvie probably, for, you know, little fishes. I don't think it's going to be able to do this as an adult because I don't think it's going to be interested that much in little fishes as an adult. And scavenging because it goes with the first thing mechanic that it's going to come with. Picking things from underground goes with scavenging. Maybe it uses the same code when it comes to programming or parts of it to make its mechanic. Now at possible upcoming mechanics, I give it directional attacks, swimming, extra smell range and walking underwater. Now I don't want to spend too much time explaining possible upcoming mechanics because I don't think they're 100% coming to this dinosaur. I just gave it to it because it just makes sense, right? Like you might ask, well, why it's swimming there and not at requirements? I think it's too big of a bird to swim properly, right? Maybe it will be able to, that's why I put it at possible. But what we see from its concept art, it's more likely sitting on top of the shallow water searching for fishes rather than dive into bigger waters, which makes me think it won't be able to swim. Next up we have the Diabloceratops, and at the requirements we have burrowing, sparring, burrowing because we can see it in this concept art, sparring, which it's a ceratopsian and it will be definitely be able to do, locked combat form, which what comes with sparring, right? Diablo has it. It basically locks the camera forward, swimming because it will be able to swim, and charge mechanic. Basically, I think it's going to have Carno's charge mechanic because as we can see from its concept art, when a human takes a picture of it, they basically just starts running towards it and basically catching up to the human. And I think it's a dinosaur that could benefit from the charge mechanic the Carno has. Of course, not that fast, but it will kind of give it a boost when it gets angry, because this dinosaur is described to basically being a very aggressive ceratopsian for its size, right? Now, at possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it ramming trees for fruits, right? Because with the charge mechanic, maintaining sharpness of its horns, because the trike will have that, as the devs said. Now, this guy has horns and probably it will be able to deal bleed if it keeps its horns maintained, and also stealing, eating eggs or detecting nests from this mechanic. I think Oviraptor will have an ability to smell the nests, and as we can see from its concept art of the Diabloceratops, this guy will probably be able to smell nests and just destroy them, because that's how angry this guy is, right? Now, up next we have the Megalania. At the requirements, I put its ambush mechanic. As we can see from its concept art, is going to sprint out of a bush at a Tenontosaurus and catching it. I also gave it burrowing because we can also see it in its concept art, swimming because we also see it there, venom mechanic number 1 like. So it's going to be something like Troodons rather than Dilos. From what I'm told, is going to slow up, bleed, heal from other dinosaurs, and when it bites you, you're just gonna bleed a lot and it's going to just be able to follow you. That's why I also gave it ambush, because I think this mechanic he has is more of a ambushes at you to be able to track you forward, right? It's not something that can just run after you for days and days. It's just gonna sprint at you out of a bush, catch you, bite you, and then he can just take his time following you slowly until the prey can not stand anymore and it has to sit down to heal, and this guy will just walk slowly towards it and kill it. Now next we have the pin down mechanic, which we can see it in the concept art. It basically puts down a Tenontosaurus, pinning it down, and also stealing, eating eggs. This is a picture Kissen sent in the Discord, and I'm guessing this guy will be able to eat eggs and steal eggs. Megalania is basically Jesus coming to the isle. It has everything anybody could imagine. Did I say climbing? I think I did, but I didn't expand on it. We can see it in the concept art. It's basically there. It can climb. Now this guy again is like Jesus. We love it. It has everything. It's literally the coolest dinosaur that's probably coming to this game. It looks cool. It's a slow killer and I can't wait to play as it. Now at the possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it the charge mechanic that is probably going to help developers develop a kind of ambush mechanic. Eating rotten meat, because again, maybe this lizard does not care about rotten meat, it just cares to survive. An extra smell range to be able to smell the blood of somebody eat and envenomate it, right? Now up next we have the Maiasaurus, and at the requirements I gave it the shake trees mechanic, basically shaking trees like the trike to get fruits on the ground or for its babies, a strong body like the Maiasaura to basically stand up against Carnos charging at it and stuff like that, and also a shoulder attack. Remember how at Kentro I told you that we'll come back to the Magi with the shoulder attack? Well, in its concept art you can actually see it attacking somebody in the game, well in the concept art, with its shoulder, probably giving them bleed. So I think the Kentro will help Maya with the same mechanic Kentro has with the spike on his shoulder, basically attack something with his shoulder, giving them bleed. Now at possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it swimming, because I don't really know if it's going to be able to swim, being one of the sauropods, the smallest one being introduced to the game. It's probably going to walk on the floor of the rivers or lakes rather than swim through them, but I guess we'll see. Now up next is the baryonyx, and at the requirements I have avoiding lunge mechanic. As we can see in its concept art, is going to have a mechanic that's going to help them avoid a lunge from a Deinosuchus, probably going to have very good reflexes, right? And at the next mechanic we see in its concept art is an anti-pounce mechanic. I think raptors won't, if they pounce this guy, they're basically dead, because this guy has claws and is gonna just kill them. There's another reason I added the anti-pounce mechanic to this guy, because we'll see at the acro why I added it to the Bari as well, and why I think the anti-pounce mechanic exists. Now I gave it swimming because it's obvious, and also maintaining sharpness of the claws. Remember how Trike maintains its horns sharpness? We can see in Baryonyx's concept art that it's actually going to go to trees and sharpen up its claws to keep them working properly, right? It's the same mechanic as the Trike, just with claws. Different animation, but basically probably feels the same bar, right? There's a bar that's going to fill up when you do the scratching animation on a tree, and is going to help you keep your claws sharpened, right? And we'll see this mechanic many times again. And at possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it a lunge mechanic, right? The Deinosuchus has. I know Suko will have this ability, but I don't think Baryonyx will have this ability. I think Baryonyx will more use of its claws in the water to just try to bleed things as they enter the water, rather than just lunge at them, right? I don't think it's going to be able to lunge at things, but again, we will see. What do you guys think? Next, we have the Stegosaurus, another dinosaur I don't know a lot about because it wasn't spoken about. At the requirements I gave it, we have the charge mechanic that the Carno has, and again, if you look at a Sirocco, it basically looks exactly like a rhino in real life, right, with that big horn on its face. So it doesn't make sense to not have a charge mechanic that just comes at you and instantly impales you as it hits you. Now I also gave him swimming because it's probably going to be able to swim. A sparring mechanic because it's a Ceratopsian, and again they're probably going to fight. Locked combat form which comes with sparring mechanic, and maintaining sharpness of that horn on its face. Again, Trike has it. This guy will probably maintain its sharpness of that horn at trees or rocks, probably. And at possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it shake trees as a mechanic to get fruits from it or for its babies with that big horn. Why I didn't get it a ramming trees mechanic, which, basically hits the tree rather than shake it. I think it's that horn won't really help it hit the tree very good, right? And with that big of a force to force fruits to fall. So I think it's going to put its entire weight on a tree and shake it. Up next we have the Allosaurus, which at the requirements I give it the ambush mechanic we saw at Megalania, and yes, this mechanic is back. As we can see in its concept art, the Allo will utilize probably the same mechanic as the Megalania, is going to ambush out of a bush, attacking its prey. Picking things from underground is another mechanic this guy will come with, just like the Quetzes mechanic. Now, we still don't know how that's going to work, right? Is it hearing based? Or is it a vision based? I think Allo is more like hearing based when it comes to ground and hearing things move under the burrows, right? Because we can see in its concept art is going to search the ground for something. So I think this guy hears very well to hear something under the ground move. Also gave it scavenging with picking things from underground because maybe it's gonna help. I also gave it swimming, pin down dinosaurs because this guy is going to be able to pin down dinosaurs, and also maintaining sharpness of its claws again. A lot of dinosaurs are going to utilize the maintaining sharpness of its claws, and we can see in its concept art this guy is going to use its claws quite a lot because they're big and they're strong and they can help him deal more bleed. Now at possible upcoming mechanics I didn't give him anything because I don't think there's anything to give this guy. It's already packed. So So we'll move to the next one, which is Albertosaurus. At the requirements, I gave it the swimming mechanic because it's probably going to be able to swim. Eating rotten meat, as we can see in its concept art, is going to fight one of the subadults, Alberto, for a basically bone corpse, right? So which makes me think he's going to be able to eat rotten meat. It's also going to have a crush mechanic like the Rex, a strong bite, which we can see from the concept art when it bites the head of a stego, just literally probably killing it instantly. That's why stego needs to keep its face at the back and the tail in front of enemies. And also I gave it the pin down other dinosaurs mechanic. I really think the Alberto and the Alo will have very good fights where they're just gonna pin each other down, right? So it's going to be cool. At possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it the bone break ability. I don't know if it's gonna have bone break. Maybe it will, that's why possible. Buffs near corpses like the Cerato, but again, I don't know if it needs it. It's already big enough to deal with things, right? Maybe as a juvie and a sub is going to have a buff near corpses, but maybe as an adult it doesn't need it, right? And for balancing reasons. And also extra smell range, probably like the Cerato, this guy is going to be able to smell rotting corpses very far away, which will make the Alberto very fun to play. Next we have the Plateosaurus, which at the requirements I gave it swimming, and the Hadrosaurus's 2 and 4 legs walk, basically the animation that Maya prepared for all Hadrosauruses. And also at possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it the shake the trees mechanic again for fruits and stuff. Now Plateo we don't know much about, so I didn't really have what to write on it, but I tried. At the Carnotaurus, at its requirements, we have the swimming mechanic because it's probably going to be able to swim, and again the Hadrosaurus's 2 4 legs walk that Maya prepared for it. Again, we don't know much about Cory. It's basically, it was a reskin of the Para. It's going to be its new dinosaur in here, so we don't really know what's its mechanic. At possible upcoming mechanics, I wrote for it ramming trees to get fruits from it, or maybe shake trees to get fruits from it, trample damage because it's probably big enough to stomp on homalos, on oros and tacos, and the strong body just like Maya has, right, to stand its ground. Up next we have the Pachyrhino, which at the requirements I gave it swimming, sparring mechanic because it's a ceratopsian, locked combat form because again it comes with the sparring mechanic, and also the shake trees ability because it's probably big enough to just lay on the tree and get the fruits from it, right? Nobody says, depends what its diet is, right? But I definitely think this guy will be able to shake the trees if it wants to. At possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it the charge mechanic, again like the Carno, but this guy doesn't have horns and stuff, and that's why it's possible. The bone break ability, because I think this guy instead of dealing bleed, it will deal bone break because of that thing on its nose, right? Ramming trees again for fruits and stuff instead of shaking trees, right? Because again it has the shape and it's able to ram the tree rather than just shake it like the Sirocco. Trample damage because it's big enough to deal with like oros and tacos, just stomp on them or sit on them, and also strong body possibly just like the Maya because it's big enough, right? Next up we have the Therizinosaurus. At the requirements I gave it no damage or little damage to the tail as we see in its concept art. It's probably not going to take any damage from the back or little damage from the back, depends where the prey bites, I'm guessing. Maybe its tail is just going to get worse and worse over more bites somebody bites it, so maybe if you bite it enough in the back you will finally see that tail that you can bite, right? And over time they grow back. Now how cool would that be? Next we have the cutting vegetation mechanic it will come with. We can see in its concept art it will be able to just cut through the vegetation of the isle and make pathways or maybe secret areas to nest where, you know, other things can't really get to. I also gave it the impaling other dinosaur in its claws ability, as we can see in its concept art. I gave it swimming because it's probably going to be able to swim. Shake the trees for fruits, again it's big enough to do it. And maintaining sharpness of its claws again. as the Alo, as the Trike, as Sirocco, is going to have to maintain that sharpness on trees and stuff. So, I really like this maintaining the sharpness mechanic. Dinosaurs, one fight with a Terry versus another Terry could go different ways depending only on how sharp each of their claws are. One Terry could have literally dull claws that deal absolutely no damage and no bleed or less bleed, and one Terry will have its claws very sharpened and it will just deal with the other Terry like nothing. Maybe even a young adult with sharpened claws will be able to deal with the adult Terry with non-sharpened claws, and this applies to every dinosaur that has to do it, right? Next up, at possible upcoming mechanics for it, we have directional attacks, just like the Stego with the tail poking. I feel like this guy can just, attack with a pointing attack. Like whatever it looks, it can just poke in that direction. Trample damage, because it's big enough to just step on something by mistake. And also pin down other dinosaurs mechanic. It's big enough, I think, that it will be able to probably pin down an Alo. Maybe we see them fight in the concept art, but I put it at possibly because maybe Terry doesn't really have the strength to push the Alo to the ground, but it has the strength to slash the Alo to give it a lot of bleed. Next up, we have the Suchomimus. Did I say that right? Hopefully. At the requirements of it, I gave it seeing fish from the shore. Now, this is a unique mechanic the Austro also has, and from the concept of the Sucho, I think it's also going to have the ability to see fishes without being in the water. As we can see, it just basically slashes the fish out of the water and maybe even grab it instantly from the water. Carrying food and water in its mouth, we can see in its concept art, it is going to carry food and water to its babies at the nest, right? And also I gave it a mud walk ability mechanic, which is one of the dinosaurs that will be able to walk in mud without being slowed down. And I think this guy will make nests in the mud to make it easier to defend the babies from basically any egg stealers out there or any dinosaurs that might want to kill it. And if a dinosaur wants to try, they get stuck in mud, this guy comes back home with food and water in its mouth, they just puke it out next to the babies and literally destroys the thing that wants to kill its babies. I also gave it swimming, obviously. A lunge ability, this guy will probably have, as we see in the concept art, the lunge ability the dino has, and also the pin down other dinosaurs mechanic. This guy, I think it's big enough, I think it's bigger and taller than an Alo to pin it down to the ground if, it gets the bite on it, and it doesn't have the bite force, but again, it's too close on the neck of an Alo. I think it can put it down if it wants to, right? Even Alberto's probably. Now, at possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it breaking walls or trees. Now, the T-Rex, as we know, is going to be able to break the walls of facilities or maybe even trees, right? Just put trees down as it walks through them, and this guy is big enough to do that, but again, possible, not definitely. I also gave it trample damage because, again, this guy is big enough to stomp accidentally on something, and also gave it maintaining sharpness of its claws. Now, in the concept art, I don't think we see it fight with its claws. That's why I put it at possible. I think this guy has too little of hands to actually fight with them, right? I think compared to Barry and Alo and the other guys who have a little bigger arms and little claws, this guy will use more of its mouth to do damage rather than the claws. So this guy, I don't think it will have the maintaining sharpness. But again, we don't know. What do you guys think? Tell me down in the comments. Acro, at the requirements, I gave it the choke mechanic ability, because this guy will have its own unique mechanic to choke things bigger than itself, from what I understood from other people that told me. As we see in its concept art, it's choking a trike and a Camara. It also will have the anti-pounce mechanic Barry will have, right? I said I will re-mention this later at Acro. Yes, as we can see in the concept art, when two Omniraptors jumped on an Acro, basically Acro just opened its mouth and the Omniraptor just looks scared, like just they saw Satan, right, come towards them. So just knowing that Omniraptor stopped that attack in the concept art and looked at the mouth of the acro, you know they knew that mouth is coming for them. If they knew it's not possible, they would just keep biting and slashing. But that's why it makes me think anti-pounce mechanic for acro and barrier are coming to, you know, just give a bad time to any Omni that tries to, or any pouncer in the game that tries to jump on these guys. Swimming mechanic, because this guy will be able to swim. Breaking walls and trees. Again, this guy is considered an apex by the standards of Kiss and Kitten, a developer in the Isle. So it's definitely going to be big enough and strong enough to break walls and trees. Now, a pin down other dinosaurs mechanic. Again, with the choke mechanic, this kind of makes sense. It's big enough to just pin something down. Sokos, Alos, Barrys, even Rexes, right? Who knows? I guess we'll see. And the strong body mechanic. This guy is just going to throw its weight around. It's going to be strong. It's going to be basically have some of it, the Maya mechanic in there, to have that strong body to deal with things. At possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it trample damage because it's big enough to step on things, right? And crush mechanic. The Rex has a crush mechanic and an animation, as we saw. Now this guy, I gave it to it as well, but I don't know if it's going to have it. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Up next we have the Parasaurolophus. At the requirements for it, I gave it its own mechanic we see, and I think the devs talked about it as well. Is going to have a high pitch sound mechanic. This guy is basically going to emit a sound so painful to listen to, is going to give dinosaurs a headache when this guy just runs away, basically. The devs said this guy is not going to be strong in fights, even though it's big, but is going to be fast, is going to basically have a group limit of basically like 6 or 7, right? And is going to be strong in groups, and is just going to deafen everyone who comes closer. Now I gave it the swimming mechanic because this guy is definitely going to be able to swim. A shake trees mechanic because maybe it's going to be peaceful, and that big of it makes me want to think is going to eat fruits, right? And just shake the tree to get them down, and if the tree is small enough, just get up and eat them from the tree. I also gave it the Hadrosaurus's 2 and 4 legs walk mechanic that Maya prepared for it, and the strong body mechanic. Just like Maya, this guy is going to have a strong body to deal with stuff probably. Also, at possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it breaking walls and trees, just like the Rex and Acro. This guy is big enough and probably even angry enough to just break a wall or a gate if it wants to, or trees, like if it goes through thick vegetation, it might just pull down a tree if it stumbles upon it. And also gave it trample damage because it's big enough to just step on an Oro or a Minmi or something, right? Next we have the Dinosaurus, which at the requirements of it, I gave it its own unique ability, the mud walk, which also the Suko has it. I think these are the only 2 dinosaurs in the game that will be able to walk through mud, right, and live happily in the mud, as we can see in Dinosaurus's concept art. The Suko and the Dinosaurus will have quite the fights, right? The Suko being mud and Dino being mud, we can see them fight. Also, I gave it scavenging, as we can see in the concept art for it. This guy walks in the water and kind of smells something in the ground and just digs a hole, like scavenging in underwater. I gave it the breaking walls and trees mechanic, just like the Para and the rest of them, because maybe it's gonna use it, right? It's big enough to just break a wall with its claws and just throw its weight in the gate to open it. I also gave it the pin down other dinosaurs mechanic. This guy is big enough to pin down another dinosaur like Alos or Albertos or even Sukos, right? Or even a Spino if it has to, right? I also gave it the maintaining the sharpness of its claws ability, because those claws will definitely need to get sharpened, and I think it's also in the concept art. I'm not sure though. Also, I gave it the mechanic of the Minmi walking underwater, which the Anki will also use it, right? At the possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it the trample damage, because this guy again is big enough to stomp on something and just walk on it and plishk, right? And the shake trees mechanic. Maybe this guy will find, you know, a coconuts feel interesting and will just shake trees. Probably as a sub-adult or a juvie, right? As an adult, I don't think a coconut is enough for this guy. Up next, we have the Carnotaurus, which I don't know if he's gonna make it in the game or not. Felipe said he doesn't want another Rex Giga clone, and that's that. Requirements, I give it swimming, breaking walls and trees because it's big enough, and pin down other dinosaurs because it's big enough. At possible upcoming mechanics for this dinosaur, I give it bone break, trample damage, crush mechanic, and strong body. Again, crush mechanic, I don't know if it's going to be as strong as the Rex. Bone break, I don't know, maybe it's a combination of Rex and Giga, and so maybe it has bone break and bleed, but not as strong as the other two. And basically, yeah, the next we have the Giganotosaurus. At requirements, I gave it its own unique ability we can see in its concept art, which I'm very excited for. Ripping the skin mechanic of animals, like we can see it ripping skin from the Shantugosaurus, and I think devs also talked about it, about the Giga being able to rip the skin out of dinosaurs. I also gave it swimming abilities, like maybe this guy is going to swim. I know Rex in real life probably was able to swim, so weight is not necessarily an issue all the time in being able to swim. It's also how you look. Minmi is not able to swim because it simply doesn't have the shape of the body to be able to swim. But Giga maybe has extra smell range to smell the blood again, like Megalania is probably going to smell the blood far away, right? Now I gave it the breaking the walls and trees ability because obviously this guy is big enough to just break a wall, get rid of trees in its way. And the trample damage because definitely this guy is just gonna stomp on something like a Minmi by mistake and just splash blood everywhere. At possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it the bone break ability. I don't know how strong the guy's bite is. Now the Giga, I know it's a bleeder, but again, who knows? Maybe it's strong enough to deal bone break. Maybe, like, if this guy bites an aloe, do you think he's gonna give it bone break or not? Let me know down in the comments. Eating rotten meat. Now, I think this guy will have a liking of rotten meat. Like, this guy already has extra smell range for the blood. Why not rotten meat? It's big enough that it needs a lot of calories to survive, so why not take the advantage to eat something rotten, right? I also gave it the crush mechanic that Rex has, you know, but again, I don't know how strong its bite is. Is it even stronger than an Alberto's bite force? I don't know. Again, this guy will deal massive bleed, but I don't know what the bite force of this guy is, right? So who knows? And also I gave it the strong body of the Maya. Again, this guy is big enough to have a strong body, and I don't think anything moves it that easily. Up next we have the Spinosaurus. The requirements of it, I gave it walking underwater. We see it at Minmi will have this mechanic, the Deinosuchus will have this mechanic, and Spino will have this mechanic, as we can see from the concept art. Picking things from underground. Now this, again, we see this mechanic from Aloe as well. This guy will probably hear stuff, as we can see in the concept art. It just flips a Minmi out of the ground with its claws, right? So it's definitely going to be able to hear something under the ground. Now I don't know if it's Austrovision based or hearing based. I also gave it the lunge ability because this guy, as we can see from the concept art, will be able to lunge at stuff. Scavenging because picking things from underground. Trample damage because this guy is big enough to just step on something smaller than it. Breaking walls and trees obviously is the Spino. Let's be honest, this guy is just gonna break anything that it sees. It's big enough to do it, and he doesn't care, trust me. And the pin down other dinosaurs mechanic because this guy is big enough to just bite something and just pull it to the ground with its claws and bite, right? Maintaining the sharpness of its claws. This guy will use the claws, and I think it's in the concept art as well that it will keep them sharp. At possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it bone break. I don't know how strong this guy's bite force will be to break bones. Maybe a tail attack, right? Who knows? A crush mechanic ability. Again, I don't know how strong its bite force is. And a strong body. Again, you're not moving this guy very easily. Now, up next is the Ankylosaurus. At requirements, I gave it the special mechanics that will come walking underwater, just like Spino, just like Deinosuchus. This guy will walk underwater basically. It's too heavy to even, you know, swim. So I think he's gonna walk underwater, and I think we even see it in the concept art. Sitting down for protection mechanic, which we see in the concept art, is going to basically protect its underbelly from small dinosaurs, and it's just gonna sit down and just leave the armor on top of it to do its job. And next up is the strong armor mechanic, which Minmi will have, right? Not as strong as the Ankys, but it will basically make an idea for it, right? And this guy will have strong armor. I also gave it bone break because you can't have Anki without bone break, the devs said, I think, and you know, that's true. And also gave it the ramming trees ability. Now, why not shake the trees? Because this guy has a club instead of a tail. He's just gonna hit the tree and everything that it's in it, considering maybe even Herreras, are gonna fall down from the tree. At possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it breaking the walls and trees, right? Maybe the tail of it is going to be able to just break a wall or a gate or something like that. And I also gave it trample damage because maybe it's big enough and tall enough to do trample damage, but again, possible, I don't know. Up next is the Shantugosaurus, which has the requirements of the sparring mechanic, right? As we can see in the concept art, the Shants will spar against each other and just fight. Maybe it's not going to be like Ceratopsians, but definitely these guys will have a feud or a fight for dominance. And I think the devs also said they want to bring fights of dominance to all dinosaurs, so who knows. I also gave it breaking walls and trees for obvious reasons. This guy is taller than my house. Trample damage because this guy can just literally stomp on me and make me into a pool of blood. Pin down other dinosaurs, as we can see in the concept art. He just puts an Alberto to the ground and stomps it. Hadrosaurus has 2 4-legs walk that Maya prepared for it. It can use the basically same principle, you know, they used to program how walking on 2 legs and 4 legs would work. And a strong body because again, it probably takes 2 or 3 gigas to move this guy, right? Yeah. At possible upcoming mechanics, I gave it swimming. I don't know if it's just gonna walk underwater or just swim in the water. I mean, weight is not always everything, right? It's probably going to be able to swim, but again, we don't know. That's why I said possible. And I also gave it bone break ability because probably if this guy hits you with the back leg, as we say in the concept art, is gonna break your head, neck, liver, and the will to live, right? So yeah. Up next we have the sauropods, right? And these are our last boys, the Camarasaurus, Brontosaurus, and Brachiosaurus. These guys have the same requirements, basically, walking underwater, which is a unique mechanic we haven't seen in the original ones, but we've seen like with Spino, Dinocaurus and stuff like that. They're too heavy to swim, so they just walk, right? Breaking walls and trees, because again, they're sauropods and they can just, you know, break walls and pull down trees and stuff like that. Trample damage, because again, these guys, Brachy will probably stomp on a Trant, to be honest. And strong body, because I don't know who's gonna move these guys, probably hyper dinosaurs, right? And at possible mechanics, I gave them the bone break ability. Again, I don't think it's coming, right? Possible mechanic, I don't think it's true, because again, these guys won't really be able to hit you except with the tail. I feel like these guys, this only attack is going to be the stomp. These are basically all the dinosaurs, upcoming dinosaurs, and all their mechanics. I know this part was very long, and thank you very much if you stuck through it. I want to know what you think about it down in the comments, and we're gonna move in adding the new mechanics we've seen that the new dinosaurs will add to the game. So we have basically all the new mechanics on one piece of paper in front of us to see everything that's in the game and it's going to be in the game. And then after that, we're going to, of course, make our own roadmaps. On the left of the list, we have the black mechanics that are already in the game in some shape or form, or are in the next roadmap that the developers showed us on YouTube that are going to be here very, very soon. The red ones on the right are from dinosaurs that are going to happen after the roadmap that the developer showcased us on YouTube. So anything that's not coming or confirmed when it's coming is on the right, on the red side. Now I want to move on into showing you guys what I think the future of the isle is going to look like and what I think the future dinosaurs are going to be. First, I think the secret dinosaur between the Oviraptor and the Maiasaura is going to be the Baryonyx, and I think the secret apex that's going to be in the next roadmap is going to be the Acrocanthosaurus. Alright, this is more like a video you'd see from me on YouTube, right? This is the ending part of the video. This is all theory and my theory, and you don't have to watch it if you don't want to. You can, thank you very much if you've made it till here, and I appreciate it a lot. Now, what I made here is basically like my own roadmap on the future dinosaurs. Of course, you can change it yourself if you want to. Maybe I'll link this document down in the description as well, and you guys can make and change whatever you want. Up here, I basically put the few mechanics on the left here, which you can see are basically walking underwater. Minmi has it, and Dino, Spino, stuff like that, right? Look, all these guys have it. Take armor, Minmi has it, and Anki has it, and stuff like that. Now, if Minmi comes first, it's gonna build on walking underwater and take armor mechanics, which will basically help all these dinosaurs that have it, and these dinosaurs will have the mechanic ready if Minmi comes, right? That's how it works. Now, I went down here and made the roadmap. These are all the dinosaurs that we're getting now: Hera, Diablo, Dilo, Rex. Now, it seems like I think there's gonna be one apex per roadmaps. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? We have Bari as the secret dinosaur that's coming between Maya and Ovi, because it has to come before Suko and also helps Acro with its mechanics. As we can see here, it has the anti-pounce mechanic, which also Acro has, right? So it will help Acro. And it also builds on my theory that if Bari comes, it also helps Acro, which is in the next secret apex in this one. I split the apexes into each has one of their own roadmap, right? I don't think we'll see 2 apexes per roadmap. So like Acro and Spino in the same roadmap. I put Acro and Para in this one because Acro and Para seems just a good rivalry between me, right? I feel like they're gonna do good against each other. Here we have Spino and Anki, because Anki and Spino... in Spino's concept art, you can see topple an Anki over, and Anki will kinda also be able to go underwater and walk through water, just like Spino could. And I think these guys will basically fight each other, right? And it builds on their rivalry. Here I added, in the next one, I added the Dinosaurus and the Carnotaurus, because again, I don't know if Karkar is coming, but Dinosaurus I think comes before Giga. And now Giga and Shunt are the rivalries I see. Now, this is one theory, right? Like, which you can go and arrange them as you want. Do you think Giga and Shunt will come before Dinosaurus? Do you think Giga and Shunt will come for Acro and Para, and Acro and Para will come after? Do you see other rivalries? I don't know. But I think in the next roadmap we'll get Alo and Alberto, which will deal with Mayas and will help hunt Stegos and Trikes, even Kentros, stuff like that. Proto, I think, will come with them because it's a new borrower, and also Dryo. Alo helps quet Spino and Megalania to make them easier to come in the game. Alberto has the Alo-Alberto rivalry, and Dondi set comes after Alo. Proto, again, new borrower plus Dryo, and we see Dryo and Proto kind of have a feud against, between each other. Even Ava and Dryo are gonna have a feud against each other, and when Proto and Ava are gonna be in the game, I think these two are gonna fight, right? Acro and Para, as I said, rivalry. Austro helps Suko build on its mechanics. If you go here, Austro has seeing fish from the shore, and also Suko has that, seeing fish from the shore. Austro will build the mechanic for Suko to see fish from the shore, and obviously for all the other dinosaurs that have it. And I think it's a cool addition, Austro. We love the little guy. Now, Minmi will help Dinosaurus, Spino, Anki, and the sauropods with the walking underwater, as we see from its concept art. Maiasaurus helps sauropods, being the smallest sauropod, and it can kind of build on their mechanics. Maggie, and also provide more food for Alo Albertos to fight and stuff like that, and it's gonna be cool even for Acros, really. And Maggie is gonna use Kentro's shoulder attack, in my opinion. And now Megalania, and introduces a carnivore that's gonna go inside burrows, and now is gonna make burrows unsafe for Dryos, because I don't think Dondi and the devs will keep burrows safe for long after they are finalized. Then I think in the next one comes Ava, right, a new borrower, which is gonna fight Proto, Dryo, and probably Megalania as well. Suko, which comes after Bari, as it said here, and is gonna help Dinosaurus in the future, right, with its mechanics. I think Suko has seeing fish from the shore and anti-pounce, which is Mudwalk, sorry. Suko has Mudwalk and Sing Fish from the shore. And the Mudwalk also Deinosuchus has that. It's gonna help him, right? And Suko and Deinosuchus, I feel like, are gonna have a feud again, right? Because we see it in the concept of Deinosuchus fighting a Suko. And they both can go on mud and not be slowed down. And Mono is gonna be a carnivore Hypsi, basically building on the spit mechanic and stuff like that. Spino and Anki, again, their rivalry. And Spino also helps the Quetz, right? Spino has a mechanic Quetz has. Quetz has seeing things underground, just like Alo and Spino. Alo will also help Quetz if it comes before. Quetz then comes, which is a new flyer. Homalo, Terry, and Kamara. Homalo is gonna be a smaller Pachy, basically. Terry is gonna expand on the wounds for the Giga we see on the Terry's concept art, that is gonna fight an Alo and it's gonna be all slashed up. And probably that's gonna build on the mechanics of the Gigas, that the flesh ones are gonna come off. And then Kamara, which is gonna be probably the second sauropod, and they're gonna try to see how he's gonna work with being an AI, right? How will it work? Now, next is gonna be Deinosuchus, which is a omnivore semi-aquatic, which probably is gonna take the Spino in a fight and introduce it to the game. Rugops, which is a smaller Carno with no charge, but we'll see how that works. Humans are gonna be in this game by this time probably. So as we know, Rugops in its concept art is fighting humans, and they can also test that out. Now the Utahraptor is probably going to come in this roadmap, because Utahraptor got changed to Omniraptor, and now Utah is a bigger, more feathered raptor. I think they want to add. Pachyrhino is gonna come, and it's probably gonna be a bone break Ceratopsians rather than a bleeder, right? Because it doesn't have horns, it has that thingy on the nose that is probably very tough, and it can just break your bones if it hits you. Now Velo is just another raptor, small raptor, just, you know, they have to add it somewhere. Carnotaurus, which again expands on the playstyle for Giga, building, you know, stuff for Giga. The devs could use this to test Giga, right? Or they get just add Giga here, right? But again, I think Giga and Shunt are gonna have a rivalry. Brachy, which is the biggest sauropod, and I think is gonna come before Bronto, because maybe they're gonna try to see how a big sauropod is gonna do in the game. Would players absolutely like it? Will developers like it? Or will they switch to a little smaller one, which is Bronto? And depends what they want to do with it, right? Now Corey, I don't know how they're gonna play the Corey matchup, but I think it's gonna come here because it's big. It's gonna build on, you know, Car can eat it. Deinosuchus can be mad and slash them away from the water. Utahraptors can pounce it and bring it to the ground, stuff like that. And maybe Corey and Pachyrhino, you know, they're kind of there. They can form a herd together. And Plateo, which I don't know what they're gonna do with it, to be honest, but maybe they're gonna make it a semi-aquatic herbivore. I saw it has long neck, and it reminds me of that dinosaur that just spends more time in underwater or in swamps and stuff like that, so that would be cool. We have a herbivore, semi-aquatic, omnivore, and carnivores, of course. And then at the end, just because they don't want to release everything cool at the first and then leave meh things there, I think Giga and Shunt, and the devs also said that Giga is at the bottom of the list because it doesn't bring anything. So I think Giga and Shunt are gonna do very cool, and the players are still gonna be excited if we're here, right? And oh, what cool other can come to the game. Oh, Giga Shunt, oh my god, I'm excited again, even at the end of the dinosaurs, right? Bronto and Styracosaurus, again, very cool dinosaurs. And Taco and Oro, of course, at the end. Who knows, maybe they decide to not even add them anymore, but who knows, maybe they will, maybe they won't. You can rearrange these as you want, I don't really mind, and tell me in the comments what you thought. Thank you very much, and yeah. Okay, this is the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I appreciate it a lot. I worked a lot of it. It was a very hard time working out each mechanic, and it was tedious and so boring at times, but I had to do it because I pushed through it and I wanted to come with a video to you guys. Thank you very much for watching, guys. It was me, Mr. Beard. I'll see you in the next video, and yeah, take care, guys. Happy hunting, and use these mechanics as you wish, use my theories as you wish, and yeah, thank you guys for watching. See ya, boys.